Hey, church family, this is Pastor Joe, and I want to share with you something that I shared at the end of our two services this past Sunday. 2 months ago, a conversation began between us and a sister church in town, Calvary Baptist Church, about how our churches could come together and partner to do family ministry. It started with the idea of maybe doing VBS together or doing some youth events together, but pretty quickly, something began to change. And that conversation began to evolve into how could our churches partner together in a way that was much more intentional and that was much deeper than just doing events together. So as we talked and the more that we prayed, we began to ask this question. Was there a possibility that God was desiring for our churches to do more together to impact the kingdom and reach the lost than we could ever do by ourselves? So the pastor at Calvary, Grant Arender, and I began praying. We began talking through who our churches were, what our strengths were, what our struggles were, what our visions were to reach our community. Then we brought our staffs into that conversation and began praying and talking together as church staffs. Then we brought our leadership teams, our elders, our deacons, and the next step is that over the next 2 months, we want to bring our churches together and let you get to know the people at Calvary. We want to ask you to join us in prayer and in fasting and saying, Lord, do you want us to do something that maybe is different than anything we've ever done before? Something that could impact the lost in a way that we could never imagine. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spend the next 7 to 8 weeks in a really intentional season of discovery together as churches. That's going to look like 3 different things. First, we're going to ask you to join us in prayer and in fasting. In fact, our leadership team is already taking from sundown or from dinner on Thursday to dinner on Friday and fasting and praying together about this. And we want to ask you to join us in praying and to join us in fasting in those 24 hours, saying, God, what do you desire for our church? And are you calling us to step out of the boat and to take this step of faith in following you? Secondly, we have put together a list of events. In fact, we gave out to the church on Sunday a timeline, and we are going to post this as well and email it out, but a timeline of events that will allow our children and our families and our students and our college students, our young couples, our women, and our church bodies as a whole to come together, that you might get to know the people of Calvary and they would get to know you, and that we might be able to see if God is really building a purposeful connection between our two churches. 3, we are going to be putting together a small group of leadership from both churches that will explore this idea of merging together. That team will be tasked to work through all of the technical issues, all of the questions that we've had and that we know that you may have, so that we can figure out if this is what God is calling us to do, what does it need to look like? Church family, this is an exciting and scary prospect. And I think those are the exact words I've used, our staff has used in moments, our leadership has used. But here's what we know for sure. Our church has always said that we wanted to do what God wanted us to do, that we wanted to be what God wanted us to be. And that's still our desire. We want to reach the lost for Jesus. We want to connect with the unconnected. And so whatever God desires for us to do, to that end, we want to do. Whatever God desires for us to be, if that's the goal, then we want to be. Because what we want to do is make sure that every time God says to us, come out of that boat, it's me, that we're ready to jump out, to go find the lost, to find the hurting, and to connect them into a spiritual community that's vibrant and authentic and that is centered on the gospel of Jesus. Church family, we know that you're going to have questions about what you just heard, and that's okay. We want you to feel free to contact me or our staff or our elders or our leadership team and ask those questions. Some of them we'll have answers for. Some of them we may not. But we'll do our best to try to answer and to listen and to talk through your questions and your concerns. As we get deeper into this process and as we begin to discern what it is that God is saying and whether or not this is a path He wants us to walk, then we will have real intentional times of coming together to talk through those issues. But church family, the most important thing we can do is to pray and to say, God, what do you want for us as a church? So I want to invite you to please join us in prayer, join us in fasting. And church family, I hope that you will take every opportunity that you're given to get to know the people of Calvary and to prayerfully say, God, show us if this is what you desire for us as a church. I love you, church family. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your heart for Jesus. And I cannot wait to see the days that God has ahead for us. I love you, and I'll see you Sunday.